Thanks for tuning in. I'm Lynn Berger, host of Lynn Berger Interviews Remarkable People. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with the Honorable Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney of New York's 12th Congressional District. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Lynn. You're a great friend of mine, a great friend of the community, and I'm honored to be on your show.
Thank you. Well, what a historic week. With your tremendous support, the House of Representatives passed President Biden's Build Back Better Act. Can you share with us what this is all about?
Well, first I want to put it in context. It was a historic, remarkable week. We began the week on Monday by going to the White House to celebrate the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And because I'm a committee chair, we had a private meeting with the president with about a few committee chairs, which was very exciting to be able to speak with him in a personal way with his wife, Jill. And then after that, we went outside to the lawn of the White House, in the back of the White House, and past the Rose Garden out to an area. And there were over 200 members of Congress there, 300 people from across the country. We were all in great spirits, not only for the passage of the infrastructure bill, but the American Rescue Plan, which brought brilliance to the great city of New York, helping our MTA direct grants to people, and really shoring up our hospitals and all that we spent as the epicenter of the epicenter during the terrible COVID time. But what life is about is not what you accomplish, but what's next. We were celebrating the next thing, which was the voting for the Build Back Better Act. One thing that I thought was very positive about it is that both Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema were there, two that have been making some demands on the Build Back Better Act. But the fact that they were there was evidence that they really want to be part of the answer, want to be part of the solution. So I was confident that we would pass it. But nothing's easy. We went to the floor, we debated it. I had a section of the bill, I chair the Oversight Committee, which addressed climate change. One of the existential threats we confront, the most important thing we could do is save the planet, thereby save the planet for our children and grandchildren and everyone else. So it was a very, very important debate. But in my section, we are going to electrify the postal fleet, turning it from fossil fuel, really spewing out toxic fumes instead of clean air, and also the federal fleet. And the post offices would be used as charging stations across the whole country. So it would give us the built-in infrastructure. But the Build Back Better bill, but first I have to get to how we got there, because we also had two things, stumbling blocks. First was Mr. Gosar comes out with this terrible video that murders one of my colleagues and attempts to murder the president. And it's very, very wrong, because these things have repercussions. We saw January 6th, it's beneath the office that he held. No other office would tolerate such conduct. So we had to censure him. So we had a censure vote and removed him from his committees, one of which was mine. And that was a heated debate. Then we started to vote, and we voted. We didn't even get to voting because McCarthy decided he was going to filibuster. So I was sitting there waiting for him to stop talking. But I have to tell you, when he started talking about Washington crossing the Delaware, and he says, no, not just crossing it, but the painting. He's talking about the painting of Washington crossing the Delaware. I knew we were in for a major, major filibuster. He stopped talking at 5:30 in the morning when we finally voted. And now help is on the way. It is transformational. It is a game changer. It is investing in the infrastructure of family life here in America.
That is fantastic. What are you most proud of? What are you looking forward to seeing?
That's a really hard question to answer because there are three pillars. One is climate change. It is the most significant investment in climate change in our lifetime. Over $555 billion over 5 years, greening of buildings, investing in new technologies, all green, green, green. Also moving to electric cars, which is a major step forward. So there's major investments in the climate change battle, but also the investments in families. I went to Congress as a young mother, and I've always worked hard on family work balance, paid medical leave. I passed it for federal employees, which I had jurisdiction on, but we finally got paid family and medical leave in it for 4 weeks, which is tremendously important. Women will not be fired for not making a decision to have a child, to balance work and family. It also has the child tax credit, which can lift over half of American families out of poverty. And an investment in education. As a former teacher, it's 2 free years of school for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. Educators say the most important investment you can make is early childhood education, all tremendously important. Also for seniors, very importantly, lowering the cost of prescription drugs, allowing to negotiate lower prices, capping out at $35 a treatment per month for insulin, which helps so many people, capping out $2,000 a year for the cost of prescription drugs for seniors. So major investments in so many ways to basically help people and unify us as a country.
Well, it definitely sounds like it's going to benefit so many American families. And as you said, lift up so many that need it. So thank you. I want to take a little bit of a pivot now. You mentioned as a teacher, if we could speak briefly, a lot of people don't know where you started your career. Can you share with us?
Well, I was born in the conservative South. I was born in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I was raised in a small city, which was then a small city called Virginia Beach, Virginia. It was roughly 50,000 people when I lived there. When I came to New York, the first elected city position I had was 250,000 people. So I represented an area much larger than the area where I came from. I came to New York to visit a friend and absolutely fell in love with the city. How can you not love the greatest city in the world and the greatest country in the world with so much excitement and so many opportunities for everyone if you want to work hard and contribute? So I decided to stay in New York, and I became a teacher. I taught in East Harlem. I taught for the Welfare Education Plan. It was a city, state, federal program that helped people get their 8th grade equivalency, their high school equivalency, move them off of welfare, help them find jobs. And when you're young, don't you remember you felt like you could, change the world in 24 hours? And
well, you did.
Well, I was like really into it, and we were succeeding in helping people, and I really loved it. And it lost its funding. So the state decided not to fund it. They cut it out of the budget. And my first election, my absolute first election was, we had an election to elect someone to represent East Harlem at meetings at 110 Livingston Street, which was the head of the Board of Board of Education at the time. And I was like 22 years old, and I won. I won the election. I was nominated. I never thought I wasn't running. They just elected me. I was, to this day, I don't know what they saw in this 22-year-old that they thought could be helpful, but I was helpful. We went down to 110 Livingston Street and decided we had to go to Albany to meet with the legislators and convince them that they had made the wrong decision and that they should fund the program. So I went to Albany, and we all had assignments. So I came back to the bus, and everybody was very blue and down. And I said, well, I got in to see everybody I was supposed to see, and this is what they said. They're all supporting the program, and then they have all these other ideas, and this is what we should do next. So to make a long story short, I became the lobbyist for the program. That's really sort of transformational for me, because I could see the power of government, that a legislator who really cared about education could do more to fund the program, set the policies than the chancellor. I even had the chancellor calling me, what's happening in Albany? Tell me, so
Well, you were destined for this, and here
Well,
you are today, right?
I just
You-
went to work and I've refunded the program. So then they put me in charge of communications and development for career education, which was all the educational special programs. And I just couldn't forget the excitement and the ability to help so many people. In a classroom, you can see when someone learns and it's very exciting, but you could save a program, you could save thousands of people and help thousands of people and create jobs and opportunity. So I wanted to go back into government. So I finally went back and I worked for Eddie Lehner. He's now a surrogate judge, and he was the chairman of housing. So I worked for him for a while, and then I got an offer to be the lead staff member on what's called the Cities Committee. And we did a lot of creative work there on that committee. And the leader of the Senate then offered me a job working for the New York State Assembly. And so, and the Senate. So I worked for two speakers and the leader of the Senate before running for office. When you work for an elected official, everybody sort of comes to you for leadership because they know that you can get them to act, and then that's your job to act for them. So I went down to City Hall to testify, and I said, if you draw Carnegie Hill and Yorkville into East Harlem, then I can run for office there. That's our district, we'll all run. And so they drew us up there, and everybody said, well, Carolyn, run. So I ran. No one thought I could win. It was an 80% minority neighborhood district and voting district, and I won.
Well, and you continue to win, right?
And then I ran for Congress.
Well, you have been a star, and I want to talk a little bit as we're going to get to like the future of New York, because you have done, I really feel New York is back. I've been on that Second Avenue subway, and I have to tell you, it's very optimistic. I feel very optimistic now about everything. And you?
Oh, well, when I get depressed, I get on the Second Avenue subway. When I went to Congress, I had a goal of 10 things to do. And one was to build the Second Avenue subway. And I did. It is the only subway that's been built while I've been in Congress, not New York City, not New York State, but in the entire country. And now with the infrastructure bill, we're going up to 125th Street, 96th Street, all the way down to 62nd Street, and then connecting to other lines down. But eventually, we're going to build a full build Second Avenue subway from Harlem 125th Street all the way down to Wall Street.
Well, that was my next question. What can I expect about the Second Avenue subway in the future? You have been fantastic. And one of the things that I've always admired you for, you've been a champion for women's rights, the Equal Rights Amendment known as ERA. Could you tell us what your current efforts with that now and what that looks like in legislation?
Well, that is, I have accomplished a lot more than I ever thought. I've accomplished all of my 10 goals, save one, which was to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. And I've worked on it the whole time I've been in Congress. We now have gotten 38 states to ratify it. And so the Constitution says that the archivist will then certify it, and then that becomes part of the Constitution. What happened is the archivist, who was appointed by President Obama, and I thought this is great, he'll certify it. He decides, this was under Trump when Virginia finally ratified the 38th state. He decides that he's going to write the Trump administration and ask them what he should do. Terrible idea. You know that they're opposed to it. So he writes them, and they write back and they say, it's not legal and you can't ratify it. So he doesn't ratify it. So we keep trying to get him to change his position, and it eventually will end up before the Supreme Court. There's several cases going from both the advocates for the ratification and those in opposition. But right now, I had an appointment actually with the archivist to discuss it this week on Tuesday. but got invited by the governor to tour the Second Avenue subway. So two of my favorite projects. So of course, we're going to have to get her help to make sure the money gets to the city and where it belongs on the Second Avenue subway. So I'll be touring the subway with Governor Hochul on Tuesday.
Oh, great. Great. Are you riding up and down, or what are your plans?
Well, we're gonna go to the tunnels. There were these Second Avenue subways planned for like 100 years, and it had never been built. And when I came, I just focused on it and made it happen. But they started building the tunnels up to 125th Street. So we're going to go see the tunnels that are already were built years ago, and hear the plans of the MTA of where we're going to move to get that done.
Wow. Wow. No, it's fantastic. It was so great to be able to comfortably go back on the subway. So thank you. And I've known you for a while, and I've always seen your fierce determination, strength, courage to stand up for what you believe in, and your energy. Where does that come from?
I have big goals. I have big goals, things you want to accomplish. And I have a lot of friends like you who support my work. And so it's every day is a day that we work hard to make it count for the people that I'm privileged to represent. And I work all weekends. I'm going to a ton of meetings this afternoon. People even call me on the weekends on their concerns and their problems. And so I work hard.
Tirelessly, right? With love, right? And a tremendous amount of energy. Now, I found a fun fact, and you could confirm or deny this. Do you have a black belt in Taekwondo?
Yes, I do. I'm a black belt.
While I was doing my research, when did you find time to do that?
Well, when I went to Congress, it's very, it's hard to have a routine because of everything they're doing. So I started studying Taekwondo, and we had a Master Shun Ri, who brought Taekwondo to America from South Korea. He was an excellent, excellent master, and I trained with him until he passed away, which was about 5 years ago. But I became a black belt, and I would go and work out every morning before Congress started. And we have a gym, and there were a number of us that were working out together. And I became a black belt, and it's good. It's good exercise. It's good discipline, and it's good self-defense. So I'm ready for any attack. Ready.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, speaking with you makes me so optimistic and feeling so good about the future. And I want to give you time to speak about your future and what's next for you.
Well, I have a very challenging re-election campaign, on that. And plus I am the chair of the Oversight Committee. We are conducting a very important investigation, the first ever, the first in history. We had a hearing with all 5 of the top fossil fuel companies, Enron and Shell, and all of the big companies, BP. And for the first time, they admitted and testified before Congress on climate change, and admitted that it was a threat to the planet, a threat to our health. Hopefully they will stop their disinformation campaigns and work with us to pass meaningful climate change legislation. We'll continue with that investigation. We also did a series, and are continuing, on the high cost of prescription drugs. Bringing down the cost of prescription drugs helps everybody, helps the healthcare system, makes it more affordable. And we were part of and played a big role on showing the need to cap insulin. We had many people testify that members of their family had died because of it. This is a direct support coming into families, and of course the Affordable Health Care Act. But my number one focus is New York City and helping its residents. A lot of the policies are national. I want to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, definitely. But I'm excited about the infrastructure dollars that are coming in. And we need to complete the East Side Connector, which should be completed next year. Another one of my projects, bringing the LIRR into Grand Central. The L train that needs modernization. We did get a billion after Sandy to help modernize it, but it still needs more work. The Kosciuszko Bridge, we got, or rather I got over 800 million to make that a modern, it used to be the worst bridge in New York connecting Queens and Brooklyn. It's now probably the best bridge, and we need to complete the park and the Queens side. And I've been working on a transportation hub in Sunnyside Yards for Queens, that Queens would have a transportation hub like Grand Central, where all of the tracks come together. And a very exciting, and it would really help the Queens residents get into Manhattan to work or play, and out to Long Island. So that would be an important infrastructure project. We're also looking at a planning, I think there's money in this bill for planning for high-speed rail between Boston and New York. Can you imagine if we had high-speed rail?
Wow.
And cut that down to an hour or an hour and a half instead of 3 or 4 hours, how it would grow the economy of both of our great cities. That is a priority of mine. I love infrastructure because it's a permanent improvement. And these subways, you can't have a thriving business district or even get to wonderful Broadway without the subway and the buses and the infrastructure of New York. And it's something that I always work on. And I'll share with you, when 9/11 happened, we evacuated even before they told us to, and I got in a car driving home, and they were saying that you couldn't get to New York City, that it was devastated, turned back. It's the only time that my congressional card has meant anything. I could get through all the stops to get home. And when I got home, the first thing I wanted to do, I had to go to the subway. It was eerie because no one was on the streets. There's always someone on the streets. And I just went down to this good old Lexington Avenue subway, and it was running. I thought, well, things are going to get better. And I should say that I'm very proud that in this bill, I was able to get $2.5 billion for the 9/11 health and compensation program. One of my signature bills to continue funding the health care for the 9/11 heroes, heroines, and the victims and sufferers, those that worked on the pile. So I'm thrilled about having gotten that also into the Build Back Better bill. So there was a lot of good news coming our way in that wonderful bill.
Well, you have worked so hard on so many wonderful things. I had to pick and choose what to speak about today. It's endless. And I look very forward to seeing your accomplishments continue. And you are a real friend. And I just can't thank you enough for giving me the time today, and have my viewers listen to all the wonderful things you have done and will continue to do. So thank you so much.
Well, Lynn, thank you for all your civic leadership, including this show and our great city and neighborhood. And I'm always there to help. Thank you so much. It's my honor to be with you. Always my honor.
Thank you. Take care now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Today, we will pass this important bill, and I hope the Senate will quickly do the same. I am grateful for the leadership of Senators Collins and Feinstein, who are leading this effort in the Senate. My response to those who ask why this museum is so important is, if we do not recognize women, if we don't even recognize women, how can we empower them? And we need the efforts and the ability to excel, but from all of our residents, male and female, to win in a competitive world. That's why this bill should be supported by every member of this House and hopefully the Senate. This is not about politics. It is not about partisanship. It is not a Democrat or Republican issue. It is an American issue, recognizing the contributions of our mothers, our sisters, and our daughters. This is about giving women, all women, our rightful place in history. I urge a strong, strong vote in support of this bill. Thank you so much, Zoe Lofgren, and I yield back.
Gentleman from New York, the distinguished chair of the Committee on Oversight and Reform, Ms. Maloney.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
I thank the gentleman for yielding and for his strong and important leadership on this historic bill. I rise in strong support of the Build Back Better Act and thank the Democratic leadership for their historic investment into the American lives and the lives of their families. We have no future if we don't get serious about combating climate change, and this bill is transformative in this area and so many areas, other areas. The Oversight Committee's title would make the federal government a leader on combating climate change by electrifying the federal government's vehicle fleets. Our title includes nearly $3 billion for GSA and $6 billion for the Postal Service to purchase tens of thousands of electric vehicles and build the infrastructure necessary to support them. Electric vehicles are a sensible and cost-effective investment that will reduce emissions and help save our planet. The title also includes $4 billion for GSA to expand the use of emerging green technologies and to green federal buildings. I'm especially pleased that we've included dedicated funding for OMB to track labor, equity, and environmental standards and performance. It is critical that the House pass this bill as quickly as possible. My time is up and I yield back. Congratulations to everyone who's supporting this critically important bill.